Hey now, welcome to America's leading Formula One podcast. I'm Brian Saperstein. This is Rob Vale, and we are at the dirty side of the track. Rob, what are we doing this week?
This week, we are going to be doing our crash course into Formula One. For all those new listeners, hopefully something to help educate them so when they're watching the races, things make sense. And for the veterans out there, it'll be ammunition for them to poke fun at us when we make lots and lots of mistakes, and they can revel in pointing that out to us. So really looking forward to this.
Okay. So in the second half of the year, we have starting off the tracks at the Belgian Grand Prix, Spa-Francorchamps. So it's a favorite of Rob's. It's a favorite of mine. It has elevation up and down, high-speed corners, slow chicanes, the bus stop chicane. Other than last year, it's a classic. Last year, the weather, totally a farce. We won't even get into what happened last year. But it's so fast and it's so tough. They're actually making some changes, thankfully. They're changing Eau Rouge and Radillon because in 2019, F2 driver Antoine Hubert was lost there, a friend of many of the F1 drivers. So they're trying to take, and even last year in the rain, Lando crashed out pretty violently in qualifying, trying to get through. So they're trying to take a little bit of the danger out, but it is a long, fast, awesome, beautiful track. The weather, though, does play just chaos with it.
I got nothing to add because other than just to echo that I love it. I always look forward to Belgium. And it's not one of the circuits that's going to need my idea of random sprinklers because Mother Nature pretty much does it at some point over every weekend.
Always. Next, the 15th race of the year, the Dutch Grand Prix at Zandvoort. It is a recent re-edition, has some serious remodeling over the years. They have kind of a banked carousel type corner in the middle of it. But it is just basically a huge orange Max Verstappen fan club. And I would say when you watch it on TV, it's so cool because it's right next to like the seafront resort. And it's basically like New Jersey, but hold on, less chlamydia. And so I'm kidding, Jersey. I'm kidding. My wife's from Jersey. I'm making a joke. But so it's like, you have a boardwalk and you have carousels and you have all this cool stuff. And then right next to it is this amazing track in Zandvoort. So I love watching it. It was cool to watch. And then that banked kind of corner that I'm mentioning was just chaos in 2021. I can't wait to see 2022. Following that is the Italian Grand Prix at Monza. This is known as the Temple of Speed. It is amazing. They have the high-speed Lesmo corners, which come after the early chicane where Max ran on top of Lewis and tried to roll his head off with his tire. Most of the track is flat out. Charles Leclerc had a massive crash at Parabolica a couple years ago, which is the last corner coming back to the straight. I'm doing this with my hand so those on the YouTube can see it. And so I love watching Monza. It is high speed. You can see the old track around it. It is just super cool and fun to watch.
Yeah, love it. I love Monza. Although, and I am a little bit childish that I always think that as a kid, whenever they said about the Lesmo corner, it always sounded like Lesbo. And then we always used to giggle at that because we were kids, but there we are.
No one thinks that except you, except everybody. So the Russian Grand Prix is next, 17th race of the year at Sochi. It is normally thought of as a boring race. It's a recent track, 2014. Good straight first few corners, but not a lot after that. And the weather, though, can be a factor. And the reason I say normally a boring race, last year the weather came in and it came into certain parts of the track first. And if you haven't seen or watched, check out the Russian Grand Prix from 2021. If you're a Lando Norris fan, you already know what happened. Bring your Kleenex. It's sad. But it was just an amazing race. I watched the last 8 laps of that race over and over because it is just filled with drama. And I'm looking forward to the next year. I hope the weather doesn't play quite as much a factor, but I also hope the racing is better than normal. So we'll see what happens. In 18th position for the calendar, Singapore Grand Prix, obviously in Singapore. It's a street circuit which has had multiple driver criticisms from the surface, the curbs, the pit lane. They had this one chicane, they call it the Singapore chicane, where you kind of go around it, you launch into the air. It's disgusting and fantastic at the same time. Fantastic because you never seen an F1 car airborne like this that then lands and keeps going, but disgusting because all of them break eventually after they hit this thing and they keep grinding it down. But it is a night race. It's pretty exciting to watch. A lot of cars hit the wall. I definitely watch it because you never know what's going to happen. It's one of those Howard Stern type things. You just want to watch to see what happens next. And then following that is 19, the Japanese Grand Prix at Suzuka. It is an amazing circuit. If you played pole position as a kid, Suzuka was one of the, I mean, Suzuka's been around forever. Straights, chicanes, high-speed corners. Just watch it. We haven't been there in a few years because of COVID. I cannot wait, and I hope we are back at Suzuka. It would be amazing.
Agree. Yep. Love it.
20th is the U.S. Grand Prix at Circuit of the Americas, also known as COTA. It's in Austin, Texas. It could be a great race. It's fun to watch the start. It's kind of banked upwards. You go up the hill into the start. The track kind of needs a resurface. It feels like they're driving over potholes half the time, and you watch cars start falling apart. That it's similar to Spa in kind of that some of the rising and falling. I think it could be a great race, and I'm looking forward to it being a great race. And I would just say it's fun to watch as an American. It's fun to watch the American F1 celebrities show up to COTA. And you kind of see who they are. And part of it is local. You get Matthew McConaughey. All right. And you get other people. Danica Patrick is somehow commentating because she's famous. You get Chris Bosch, who was there, and Shaq pulled up my favorite was when Shaq pulls up in a Cadillac limo, open topped bullhorn thing, and then hands out the trophies. But Shaq wants to be part of something. So I don't know if everyone saw this during the trophy presentation. He stood up there and stayed, and he stood on the ground next to the drivers, but was taller than them on the podium. So you've got all these great memes of like Max just being towered over by Shaq, but Shaq's on the ground and Max is on a podium. And Shaq didn't want to leave. He's like, "Nah, I'm just gonna hang out here in the middle of the whole deal." Shaq is,
and no one's gonna move him.
I mean, he's 7'1", 380 pounds, and hilarious, and I love that guy. To close it out, we've got a few left here. The Mexico Grand Prix at Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez. I love this race. I love it because of the stadium. So it's like three parts. You got a little bit of street, a little bit of permanent track, but then it comes into the stadium where it does kind of like a nice, almost airpin type kind of 90 and then back out. But it's literally in a stadium where people are in risers all the way to the top. I would kill to sit in that stadium and watch cars go through. That would be the greatest. It's just beautiful.
It's an actual baseball stadium, isn't it?
I think it is. It is.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's not, we'll go play, but it should be. And then we go all the way over to Sao Paulo, Brazil, down, I should say, all the way down to my globe in front of me to Interlagos, which means between the lakes. It's an amazing circuit. It is so much fun to watch. Great wheel-to-wheel racing. It has a little bit of rises and falls, but it has, if you kind of time it right, and again, we mentioned this with our guest Paul Harris a few pods ago. In 2021, Lewis gave a masterclass in how to kind of come out of the last few turns and get into the straight at full speed and then overtake as they went up the straight and then down into the next set of corners on the home straight. Just check it out. There are overtaking opportunities. And Max pushed him off at turn four. I may be wrong on that at this point. It's late, but so it was just wild to watch. It was a great Grand Prix, great weekend, probably one of my favorite weekends in the last few years. And then we close it out with Abu Dhabi, which I believe at Yas Marina has always paid to be the last race. So they've paid extra to F1 to be the last race of the year, and it never really delivers. Kimi is famous once said, the first few corners are good, and then the rest is beep. And so they tried to redesign it in 2021 to make it better racing. It didn't really work. Michael Massey saw to that. We won't get into that.
No more of that. Come on.
No more of that. Maybe the new cars will help. But I would point out that when they redid the circuit for this last race in 2021, they'd shortened the amount of laps because they'd cut some of the distance off. And Mercedes had apparently not updated their computers. And it was not something that was really highlighted in the race, but in the team radio. Lewis didn't know how many laps were left at one point as he's fighting for the championship. I thought that was hilarious. So anyway, my last note on Abu Dhabi.